Mountain Men of the West by James P. Berger.
Hunters, trappers, and explorers. The American colonies had expanded westward before they even declared independence from Great Britain in 1776. While cities grew in the east, rich fur traders controlled the prairies of today's Midwestern United States. As the fur trade grew, the number of fur-bearing animals shrank. In the early 1800s, some fur trappers began to move farther west to the Rocky Mountains. They became known as the Mountain Men of the West. They lived lonely lives in the mountain forest. They often met dangerous wild animals and sometimes even met fierce Native Americans. The Mountain Men made a large contribution to the growing United States by exploring the Rocky Mountains. When large groups of people traveled west to Oregon and California during the mid-1800s, the mountain men showed them the way. Mountain men like this man often wore deerskin jackets and trousers with fringe. Top. The Rocky Mountains became a popular fur trapping area in the 1830s. Fur companies hired trappers to hunt beaver. Beaver fur was used in the East to make capes and hats. Bottom. Native Americans in the Rocky Mountains traded with fur trappers at outposts such as this one.
John Colter might have been the first white man to see Wyoming Jackson Hole and Yellowstone Lake. He also might have seen the hot springs of today, Yellowstone National Park in Wyoming. John Colter. John Colter explored from 1804 to 1806 with a group commanded by Meriwether Lewis and William Clark. They had been ordered by President Thomas Jefferson to make maps and search for an easy water route from the Missouri River to the Pacific Ocean. On the way back, Colter met two westward-bound fur trappers. He joined them and spent the next few years in the wilderness. In the winter of 1807, Colter trapped beavers and met Native Americans walking nearly 500 miles, 805 kilometers, with his Native American guides. He claimed to have discovered an area with boiling springs, tar pits, and gas vents. Later, other explorers found this place in what is now in Yellowstone National Park, Wyoming. Did you know? The Blackfeet, a fierce Native American people, once chased Colter trying to kill him. He outran them, racing more than 200 miles, 322 kilometers, to Mountain Raymond in 11 days. Later, Colter moved to Missouri, got married, and settled on a farm.
George Drouillard. George Drouillard, who had been an interpreter of Native American languages for Lewis and Clark's expedition, explored the Rocky Mountains in the winter of 1807. Traveling southeast through the Rockies, Drouillard found the Beckwourth Basin, in today's Wyoming. Many beavers and other fur-bearing animals live there. Drouillard made a detailed map of his exploration. He shared this map with William Clark and helped Clark fix mistakes he had made on his own maps. Drouillard's map, like any other mountain men maps and journals, became an important contribution to the westward expansion of the United States. Thousands of people who moved west after the mountain men used these maps to find their way. Right. George Drouillard explored the Rocky Mountains. He trapped fur-bearing animals such as beavers inset around the Beckwourth Basin in today's central Wyoming. Inset. Some mountain men, such as Jim Beckwourth, became famous for the tales they told around campfires at night. Bottom. Trappers often had to cross dangerous rapids on the Rocky Mountains while scouting for the best places to hunt. They told others about their explorations so that people who followed them could find the easiest route.
Following the legends. The early mountain men became legends for living daring and dangerous lives in the wilderness. Many young men back in the East hoped to follow men like Colter and Drouillard and have adventures of their own. In 1822, an advertisement in Missouri newspapers called for an enterprising young men. William Ashley and Andrew Henry placed that advertisement, hoping to hire about 100 men to travel up the Missouri River to find the Rocky Mountains. There they would trap for Ashley and Henry's Rocky Mountain Fur Company. Ashley and Henry led these young men into the Rocky Mountains to hunt and explore like mountain men before them. Did you know trappers carry heavy loads, but they were never without camping supplies? A blanket, traps, pelts, animal skins with the fur still on them, a pistol, a rifle, and a small axe and a knife.
Jedediah Smith. Jedediah Smith was 24 years old when he joined Ashley and Henry's Rocky Mountain Fur Company in 1822. Smith, a shy and polite man, became legendary for life and death struggles and amazing discoveries. A grizzly bear attacked Smith during an expedition through the Black Hills of South Dakota. It bit his head, cutting his face very badly. The bear also broke some of Smith's ribs. A man named James Kleiman stitched Smith's wounds, and after only 10 days, Smith continued his exploration, looking for a path across the Rocky Mountains. Smith found the South Pass, a 20-mile wide, 32-kilometer wide gap in the mountains. Another fur trapper, Robert Stewart, had discovered the pass and traveled through it 12 years earlier. People forgot about Stewart's discovery, though. When the legendary Smith rediscovered this easy passage, many people began to use it. Right. These cottonwood trees grow along the route that Jedediah Smith took in 1823 in the Black Hills of South Dakota. Far right. 3 years later, Smith crossed the Mojave Desert on his way to California, the first American to travel there through the desert. Background. The Berger Mountains are named after mountain man Jim Berger. This photograph shows Montana's Bozeman Pass on the Berger Mountains. Left. Jim Berger built a supply output called Fort Berger in 1843, and travelers and wagon trains on the Oregon Trail.
Jim Bridger. In 1824, a small hunting party explored the area near the Bear River in Utah. One man dared another member of the party, Jim Bridger, to set out alone and to follow the river to its source. Bridger accepted this dare. He found an easy route, which was named Bridger's Pass, and which took him to the Great Salt Lake in today's state of Utah. Bridger, however, thought that he had reached the Pacific Ocean when he tasted the salty water. Bridger could speak English, French, Spanish, and several Native American languages. At rendezvous, or meetings, between fur trappers and traders, Bridger helped different groups to negotiate with one another. Did you know? Bridger became the chief of some Native American tribes because he was so popular with them. Later in his life, he became a guide, leading Americans over the Rocky Mountains to the far west. The far west was territory that was not part of the United States yet.
Trading furs. Sometimes mountain men were mistaken for Native Americans. Mountain men had dark skin from being outside all the time, and they wore dirty buckskin suits. Being friendly with the Native Americans was important because they brought many fur to trade at the fur company's forts. In 1825, William Ashley left his men to trap until July. Ashley told them to meet again on the banks of the Green River in Wyoming. He returned to St. Louis, Missouri, and in July went to Green River with supplies to trade for furs. Ashley's mountain men, other trappers, and many Native Americans arrived with thousands of beaver pelts. That meeting was the first rendezvous. Another followed each July for the next 15 years. Rendezvous quickly replaced most of the trading at the forts. This deer hide is being stretched and dried. This mountain man is meeting with Native Americans to discuss fur trading.
Kit Carson became a national hero because of his amazing feats in the wilderness. He even became the subject of a popular dime novels, paperback books that sold for a dime. Kit Carson. Christopher Kit Carson brought many people safely through the mountains as a skilled guide. Kind of a gentle Carson was also fierce and never backed down from a fight. His interesting personality made him a subject of popular books that were sold back east. Carson moved from Missouri to New Mexico when he was 17. He had explored much of the western frontier by the time he was 33. When C. Fremont of the U.S. Army Lieutenant hired Carson as a scout in 1842, Fremont told the government that Carson would be very important in helping to cross the Rocky Mountains. As it turned out, without Carson, many trails might have not been found for years. Did you know Kit Carson loved Native Americans? He meant so much that he traveled thousands of miles to Washington, D.C. to argue with the U.S. government for Native American rights.
James Pearson Beckwourth. Not every mountain man was white. James Pearson Beckwourth had a white father and an African-American mother who was a slave. As a young man, Beckwourth learned to be a scout, blacksmith, and hunter. In 1824, at age 26, he joined William Ashley and traveled to the Rocky Mountains. In the late 1820s, a Native American nation called the Crow captured Beckwourth. They did not treat him like an enemy. They mistook him for a chief's long-lost son. During his 6 years with the Crow, he became a war chief. The fur trade could not afford to have the powerful Crow as enemies, so Beckwourth helped the fur traders and the Crow became allies. James Beckwourth, above and right, was an African American who became well known for finding a route through the Sierra Nevada mountain range called Beckwourth Pass. Near today's Reno, Nevada, he told stories about adventures such as leading gold seekers to California in the 1850s.
Leading others west. The final rendezvous took place in 1840. Most of the fur-bearing animals in North America had been killed, and fur clothing had gone out of fashion. Eastern farmers wanted to go west to places such as Oregon that offered rich, fertile land. Soon gold would be found in California, attracting thousands more to the gold fields. Mountain men guided American immigrants along trails that Native Americans had shown them. By connecting many westward trails, mountain men made 2,000-mile long, 3,219-kilometer long Oregon trails. Jim Bridger often guided travelers along this trail. He probably told wild stories about mountain men to immigrants heading west over the Rocky Mountains. In 1837, Alfred J. Miller drew the picture of a mountain man. Miller was the first artist to record the life of a mountain man.